Welcome to Real Talk. I'm real estate agent Christopher here with Jay Leo from Diamond Quality Inspections, and we're going to go inspect a house.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get to it.
All right, let's go.
Right now I'm going through the monotonous, the basic questions of like, where's the house, what is it made out of, what's the temperature outside, kind of stuff you just stand around and look like you're playing on your phone. I am. And then once I'm done with that, I will start in the kitchen and work my way out. So I take out the interior of the house on the first floor. If there was a second floor, I jump up to the second. At that point, I'll go down to the basement, take my basement photos, go into that crawl space, take my pictures of the crawl space. Meanwhile, looking for any deficiencies or anything that's unsafe. And then we're going to inspect the heating system. We're going to inspect the water. Once the water guy turns the water on, and from there we'll come upstairs, crawl into the attic. Basically, I want to do everything inside because it's currently 31 degrees out. Hoping that by noon, it's 10:30 now, so by 11:30-ish, it should rise like 4 degrees, and the roof will melt enough that I'll be able to get on the roof. I'll do an inspection of the roof, the chimneys up there, and the sides, the grounds, and that little garage in the back that looks like a storage container. It's pretty great, and we'll be looking good. So, the GFIs aren't necessarily required here, but the fact that they're here and they don't operate as a GFI, it just means they don't operate as a normal plug. However, this is loose. The box is loose. The whole receptacle is, so it will be in the report just mentioning that this should be tightened up, plate comes off. Either it's the actual outlet or the box itself is loose and needs to be reattached to the stud. And I'm wondering if it might be like that in a couple other spots. So, test over here. This is nice and tight and it pops, which is not necessarily required. It's a pretty cool add-on. We have some 2-wire here. We can't test, but we know for certain that it's an open ground because 2-wire doesn't support ground and it's live. So we're just gonna go around and check everything in the house and yeah. Hello, I didn't see you there. Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're gonna check the intake heat, the heat of the air going into the intake of the system, and then we're gonna do a differential. So we're gonna check the some of these heating vents to see what the difference is, to see if the unit is working effectively. So, I'm gonna check this one out. This one is coming up at 67 degrees pointed here. So I will take a picture of that with my phone, let it calibrate. So we're at 70 degrees. Okay, then we're gonna come over here and let's pick, oh gosh, let's go ahead and do the bedroom. The bedroom is at 111, there we go. So what we'll do is we'll find the differential or the difference between the two, and that is gonna tell us how efficient the heating system is working. And that's gonna tell us if our ducting is working correctly, if it's insulated or not, or if it needs to be insulated. So it's also kind of something that you do when you're doing a home energy audit as well, but it's just part of the inspection. You want to know if you have an effective heating system, no matter what the brand or machine is doing the job. Oh, you again. I didn't recognize you there. So we're looking at a fireplace. And this particular fireplace is an insert fireplace. So insurance does not like regular wood fireplaces. They really don't like insert wood fireplaces either. However, in this particular situation, this is going to be a benefit to our client because the client wants a wood burning stove. And insurances will allow, or at least more insurance companies do allow for insert fireplaces if they're wood burning. If it wasn't insert and it was just an open hearth, it's very difficult to get affordable insurance for an open hearth fireplace. It's just because of these fires that have been going on. It's really been messing up the wood fireplace industry when it comes to open hearth. So in this particular case, I think they're going to be okay. We do need to go outside and inspect the top of the chimney and look down inside and make sure that there's no buildup of creosote, which is the soot that comes off the wood. It's the sap that sticks to the walls of the fireplace all the way up the chimney. We're just going to make sure that it's not built up. I do recommend on every inspection that you have a chimney sweep come out and clean that out, regardless of if it's done recently or not. And being that this can be a serious fire hazard, I do recommend, no matter what, you personally as the buyer have that cleaned out so you know, okay, I have this long until my next chimney sweep. And make sure that it catch everything. I'm going to have you step out of there for just a second. Got it? And then come to the other side. Get a white pan on the other. This isn't really necessary, but it does make the inspection feel like you're actually with me when I'm doing the inspection. The next thing we'll do is make sure that these grounds work in here. So we're going to test the GFCI. GFCI is a ground fault circuit interrupter, and it does indeed work. Now, the code or the rule is within 6 feet of a water source, you need to have that GFCI operating correctly. Now we have a 4-plug here, and not only do we not have a GFCI, but we have an open ground. So this can be considered a safety hazard because if I'm over here washing and for some reason water gets on my hand and I come over here and try to touch this, I can get shocked with 120 volts, which is not going to be fun. You're not going to have a good time. So we'll go ahead and mention that in the report. I'm also going to look at cosmetic things that are worth mentioning, like the cabinets not wanting to shut correctly. So like on this one, it kind of stays open a little at the top here. It's not a huge deal, but when it comes to the overall performance of the kitchen, it does start to add up. Now, we do have some cool things in this kitchen, like, for example, look at these hinges. You don't see these every day. And we do have a vinyl window, though we did find out earlier that this window is upside down. So they're going to have to repair that. We also looked at the plumbing, and the plumbing is correct in a lot of ways, except that the slope for the P-trap is low. Now, an easy fix for this is going to be to loosen this and this here, and then bring this up so that the water's either level or slightly above. That way, we don't have water hanging out inside of this line. Instead, it'll come up to this point here at the 90 and then flow in. So, I'm going to close these up for now. And we also have, again, this defect isn't necessarily something that's a problem that's going to hurt anything other than moisture can get underneath these tiles. These tiles are popping up because they're stick-down tiles. Not the most expensive tiles to use. Highly recommend using a waterproof system in a kitchen. So I'll mention that these tiles are popping up or unsecured to the floor. Let's see, we don't have any venting here for our stove, but we don't need to because this is an electric stove. If this was a gas stove, we'd want to make sure there's venting to the outside as the carbon monoxide can kill us. So, and that's kind of what I'm looking for here. I'm also checking out the walls to make sure that there's no obvious glaring holes in the walls. But what we don't look for as an inspector is we're not going to be judging it based on cleanliness or cosmetics. We're not the what do you call it? The ooh la la police. We don't care if the walls are pink. We do care if the walls have holes in them the size of silver dollars. So in this room, it's looking pretty good. We actually do have some pretty cool accents here, though. Again, not in the report. Just something to touch on. With older homes, you do get a lot more of that Victorian feel, and I do like that. So this is an old-fashioned heating system in the sense that it's just a floor vent that's square or more squarish design. Usually we have those, rectangular ones. Still operates though. I would highly suggest having a cleaning company clean out the vents. Seeing how much debris is down in there, it does affect the flavor of the smell coming in. So definitely worth it to have that checked out. We also have a hole here right above the 220 for the stove. Would recommend having that patched. That's a pretty cool wallpaper though. All right.
Oven's working, looks like.
It is. So I'll let this
Microwave
heat up.
works.
Let these heat up. Make sure that they function at their top. So we got red, 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 and red. Try not to let it go too long because otherwise it starts to smell like someone's food. And then we'll go ahead and check. Yep, we got heat. We have a fully functioning oven. Whew. So I check each appliance in the kitchen. I get their manufacturer number either inside the refrigerator or on this one. It's probably going to be on the side here. And also, if these are built in like this one is, I'll also evaluate this one. It looks like on this one, our code or our manufacturing information isn't here. So I'll mention that in the report and say, hey, we don't have our manufacturing code. I recommend having an appliance technician find out what the make and model of this is, just so that for the future they can do repairs on it. Now, 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to buy one of your. You're going to want to go ahead and have this replaced with your own. So this is a lot of stuff that's done in the case that you're going to keep it. So what I do is I will take a picture of this, and we want to know right about there. There you go. So this is a thermal camera. I use this to check the heat of the water coming out. It also shows me where it's warming up. If the sink has been insulated, with this older sink, it's probably not. So we have a lot of heat at the bottom. It's totally fine. Yeah, looks like it's doing its job. So another thing I just realized is I think the hot water tank was left on with the water off.
Oh.
The good news is I think there was water left in the tank. So it's been heating the water that's left in the tank, the dirty water. It's been sitting there a while. Yeah. So good news is we didn't burn the tank out, or they didn't burn the tank out by leaving it on. We just can't drink this water until it's run for a very long time. So it's important to know for when they move it. But it's nice and hot. It's very hot. Extremely hot. That's good. Okay.
We have here a 2007 Bradford white water heater, and it has seen sometimes. You can see it's been punch kicked. Someone used it as a kickboxing bag for some reason. But the good news is it functions. And so far we have some nice warm temperatures coming out of our sinks and faucets. The thing with this is, though, it is a 2007, and water heaters are rated to live between 8 and 12 years. So it is about halfway through its life, right? 2007, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So it is definitely towards the end of its life. That being said, water heaters are funny that way. They either die right off the bat or they outlive us all. With this particular one, we also are missing the temperature relief valve line that comes off of it and goes down the side. These are required to have the pipe come off of the temperature relief valve, down the side, and about 6 inches off the floor. Any other way is incorrect as far as my knowledge. Anything else on this? Doesn't have a pan, but it is raised off the floor, so that does keep the bottom from rusting out, which is pretty great. And it does have a shutoff. Somebody added a shutoff for the heat side, so if you want to do any work on the house, you just turn this bad boy, and voila, you can work on your heat in the house, the heat line, without having to shut the whole house off. So that's pretty cool. All in all, kind of impressed with that part. And it is an electric, so it's hooked up with electric. Now it is missing the bracket here to hold this electric line in place. Yeah, so far so good. Oh man, you keep scaring me. Well, we have found the access to the crawl space, and we're about to go inside. And the first thing I noticed is we have some knob and tube. Okay. All right. Well, I don't fit in here for sure, but what we got going on? All right. We have knob and tube. Let's check and see if it's live. It may be. It is. So we have knob and tube in here. Now, knob and tube in itself isn't exactly the end of the world. The house doesn't, not get sold because there's knob and tube in a house. What we're looking for is knob and tube that's damaged, or the cloth is coming off of it, or it's sitting in insulation, because the insulation will heat the lines, which can cause a fire. Now, it is, in today's standards, the least efficient wiring system because it was designed for a 60 amp system. And right now, currently, we are running a 200 amp system, which means that if this is taking on a more mainline load, whereas more than 60 amps flow through these wires, it can also burn them as well. A lot to consider with older wire, which is why I would recommend this all be pulled out and put in by new wire, which would be just one Romex line to replace these two lines. And it can easily be done when it's this exposed. Other times when it's in the walls, it's less easy to do. So I will recommend an electrician take care of this, but it still functions, and it's probably going to the plugs on the front of the house. And there's a couple 2 wires in the living room that I'm thinking these probably go to. So having this replaced to those locations, and then having those plugs replaced with new wires with grounds, I think you're gonna have a better experience, and you won't have to worry about shocking yourself. Ah! All right, I'm gonna crawl in here. All right. Every day. So these are what's called slab ducts. If we're looking all the way over here, those wooden boxes that go all the way down to the end and run the heating. So that's the line, the intake line, and it's in a slab duct. So normally slab ducts are inside of these bays, but when it goes the opposite direction, they build these boxes. Now that box is from 1912. That is an original, my friend. And then they converted it over to our metal here, probably somewhere in the 70s. So it's kind of cool to see the transition from the 1912 days of doing HVAC to what we do nowadays. Yeah, it is actually really cool. And now an issue we do have here also. So water is eroding this part of the foundation. And there's not an exactly easy way to fix this. Over time, this is going to weather. The solution to this will be to have somebody with a licensed foundation contractor to actually come in here and build this in. It was probably going to have to put a footing in down here and then build that foundation in from there. That's not my specialty necessarily, but I will say it's not exactly a today problem, but it is something that is going to become a problem. So we'll definitely let the clients know and see what they want to do with that. All right, I got to do another issue that we're having in here is that part of this crawl space is starting to cave in, and that's part of the reason why they did this whole wall here. And one of the piers that was holding up this section is starting to go with that piece of dirt that's falling in. I'm going to recommend that be replaced with either a longer pier, or they run some sort of beam through here and connect it in so that they don't lose the structural integrity of this location. So there appears to be some evidence of moisture here on the right hand side. That could just be from one of these drain lines, because this tube comes from the outside and inevitably moisture will make its way in there, as well as what they're blowing out usually has condensated moisture in it. So over time, this has a line that comes down and comes out to this, which is a pump. And so water will fill in this, and then it'll fill up to a certain point, pump through this line, and this line goes all the way over to the laundry room, where it goes into the laundry room drain for the washer. This is a gas system here, a natural gas. I believe it's a 2018 last we looked. So I will check this label here in just a second. It's also dirty. It's full of debris. Not that actually really matters, but it's important to know, like, keep your machine clean just so that you can operate in it. And then also there's corrosion up here, and it's hard to see really, but inside here there's like white dots and like crumbles of that white dot right there. That's soot. That's showing that moisture is hanging out in here, and so it's corroding up in here. And then the burners are converting that into minerals on that metal. So overall, I recommend an annual maintenance on this. It probably hasn't been maintenance since 2018. I also recommend someone investigate where that moisture might be coming from, just to make sure that it's not, ruining anything inside the unit. That's about it. That's wet. So there's definitely a leak going on somewhere between where the water comes through this line, the condensated liquid, and comes out and comes down into this. That is liquid sitting there. Right there. It's wet. So I'm wondering where it's coming through this guy. So here's the moisture right here, and means that this is no longer good. Sometimes these parts go bad. It's defective, and it's making moisture just collect at the bottom here. I would definitely recommend having an HVAC technician come in and replace this part, and then this will stop happening.
Oh yeah, that doesn't look the code at all.
No? Oh! No. Huh. That's probably not right. Okay, all the wiring's cool here. Again, I don't think that's not correct. Not even the slightest. No. No, sir. That's good. That all looks new and clean. I like it. I already mentioned that they need to have that checked out. So I'm just going to take my...
Big yellow wire.
Yeah, that's a no-go. Hold up. Whoa. Buddy bud. So I think they might be able to do yeah, I think they can do their floor. The clients want to turn the attic into a bedroom. And with the space they have up here and how thick their rafters are, as well as how thick their ceiling joists are, I think it's an actual possible thing. I think they should be just fine. And all the venting goes through the ceiling, or through the attic, and into the actual roof. Their vent here actually blows outside. That's pretty wild. This is actually really nice up here, and very little leaking at all. There's no leaking on the actual planks. It's all just shingles. Actually, I don't think that's leaking. I think that's the resin on the shingles from the first roof. So this looks great. They're gonna have a great time here. Yeah, they do have knob and tube up here as well. So a lot of old wiring that'll need to be replaced and repaired, and insurance does not like knob and tube. But other than that, and the roof is definitely toast. And you can see the water coming through here, unfortunately. But all right. I think getting that new roof will definitely add value, and then or at least rolling out that Graco roof sealant. And the funny thing is somebody came up here and they sealed the window by putting a hook on the outside. Cool. Okay. I'm just looking for any kind of rodents or insect evidence. I'm looking for any. Let's see what kind of depth the insulation is. That's a 6 by 2 by 4. That's a 2 by 4. And then they went over the original rock wool, so it's about 4 to 8 inches. So they're dramatically under what the standard is. But if they plan to turn this into a room, then instead what they'll be doing is they'll be taking this insulation that's laying down and just bringing it up and rolling it up these walls instead. And this will become a floor. So I think everything's going to go exactly how they want it to be honest. But I'm just...
So the rock wool that you were talking about, does that have asbestos in it?
No. So rock wool is actually used to this day. This is what it is. It's this material. Kind of looks like a steel wool, but it's not. It's fiberglass, and it's a different density. It's used a lot in attics still. On older homes, they'll keep adding more to it. But they'll use this stuff. I have a buddy who used it in the walls of his basement. Not bad. I like it. It's still fiberglass though, so don't rub it on your open wounds or anything. Try not to breathe it in if you can help it. I'm gonna try to go get evidence of live wiring over here if there is any. Oh, I'm just taking fence documentation photos right now. So one of the things I do is I take a picture of the fencing around the property to the best of my ability to make sure that the client has an idea of what they need to do both inside and out. Now, it's not necessarily part of the inspection, and it's not one of the standards of practice. However, it is something nice to do just to give them an idea, especially if they don't live nearby and they're buying this from afar, so they get a general idea on not what's inside, but also what's outside. So the roof is extremely aged. We have curling of the shingles as well as deterioration and shingles popping off. We also have a lot of moss growing on the right side here, the side facing east. Overall, this roof is definitely past its prime. Not a today issue per se, but is something that needs to be done as a top priority. That would be my recommendation. And that realtor, Christopher Locke, what a great guy, man. Just killing it every day, making life better for his clients, for his inspectors, videotaping his inspector on the roof. You know, what a good guy. So one of the things I did is inspect the roof. It's part of our standards of practice, and it's important to know what's going on with your roof. And we looked at it from down here, and I looked at it from above, and I can tell you, it's well past its prime. It's curling, buckling. As I step on it, I hear crunching sounds. I know that it is not going to last more than a year to 2 years tops. But what we did find out was that underneath it is what's called a shake roof. So a shake roof is made of shingles, and they overlap them as they come down. And now, the reason why this is so unique is because I went in the attic, and there's no leaking whatsoever. It's completely dry. It looks fantastic in there. The reason why is because that shake roof was probably still probably had a lot of life left in it. And when they put this roof over it, it's just extended it that much farther. So a lot of people probably looked at this house and went, oh, I don't want it. The roof is no good. But what they didn't know was that underneath is a roof that's still functioning and still repelling that water. Now, the moisture is going underneath the old shingles or the new shingles on the top. and it is penetrating into that shingle roof. And over time, that old roof will go bad as well. But for the time being, they do get a little bit of a reprieve because of that old, better roof that's underneath. Now, I still recommend that that be torn down to the planks and that they redo it with plywood, and then they redo it with new shingles. But in the meantime, I think they're going to get a little more life out of it than they expected. So they have some time to make up some money and make their dream come true.